often have a bad rep for asking questions that no one really has the answer to. Why is the sky blue? How do birds fly? So many times, these questions are dismissed, and very real questions go unanswered. Over time, why is the sky blue evolves into, why can't I stay out late? Because dismissive answers turn into, because I said so. Eventually, kids stop asking. They give up on understanding why they can't just stay out late. Their ability to reason becomes stifled, the weight of authority leaving little room for curiosity and dialogue. And those are exactly what make the world and the people in it grow. As we grow older, curiosity fades. It's replaced by certainty. We begin to follow societal norms without ever thinking about their origins or their purpose. But the ability to question is one of the strongest assets we can have. Curiosity is fostered through open dialogue among peers, among families and educators, and it allows critical thinking, learning, and innovation to thrive. From even the most complicated inventions to the simplest everyday ones, it all started with a question. For example, the airplane. As I'm sure you know, it was developed by Wilbur and Orville Wright in 1903. But surprisingly, they had no past training or professional education. But what they did have was a deep curiosity. So even as children, they were intrigued deeply by anything that flew, gliders, kites, birds. Their initial interest was sparked by a toy propeller gifted to them by their father. Eventually, their awe developed into a serious pursuit of human flight. As adults, they studied birds, focusing on how they use their wings to steer their bodies into balance. They applied this concept to their designs. Eventually, they succeeded and created the first successfully controlled flight in history. But they weren't the only ones trying to build airplanes. So what set them apart from everyone before them? They all had tried. Countless others had attempted to build airplanes, and they made priceless advancements in aviation. The Wright brothers, however, were set apart by their willingness to stray away from pre-established ideas about creating flying machines. Other builders focused on the amount of power the engines needed to generate, or how high the plane needed to fly. But what they failed to recognize was that having control over the machine was just as important. The Wright Flyer, which was the first successful controlled aircraft, would utilize wing warping technology adapted from birds to help the pilot steer in the air and balance. The Wright brothers didn't just want to fly. They wanted to understand flight. They had questions like, how do birds control their movement? And how can we as people balance in the air? It was their questioning and their fascination with flight that gave rise to the plane. Another major breakthrough, led by a question, was the Velcro. It was inspired by George de Maistre's fascination with the burrs on his dog. He examined the hooks on these burrs and how they connected to his dog's fur, giving him the mechanism for his invention, the Velcro. What was seemingly a nuisance during a walk became the foundation for an invention now used everywhere, in everything from clothing to sports gear and space gear. And it all started with a question. How do these burrs stick? History wouldn't be the same without intriguing questions, which is why I'm grateful my parents chose a different path. They grew up in an environment where tradition ruled without explanation. Questioning elders was seen as disrespectful. Curiosity was discouraged and shut down. But for me, it was very different. I've always been encouraged to ask why. Why do we celebrate this holiday? Why does mom cover her head when we pray? And I've always been met with an answer, or a reminder. A reminder that not knowing is okay and that power lies in the willingness to seek answers. But that's not to say that rules weren't present when I was growing up. I've been told to do things just because I was told to also. But those scenarios stood out because they were out of the blue. Most of the time, my parents have explained their reasoning. It's helped me be accepting and understand their directions and their decisions. Even when I don't agree, I can see where they were coming from and do what was being asked of me. It made me more open to listening and made me more likely to comply, but not comply out of fear, out of understanding. It also taught me how important communication is in all relationships in our lives. All of these experiences helped me understand how powerful curiosity can be, but also how easily it can be lost. When we stop asking questions, we stop growing. So whether it's inventing a plane or simply understanding more about our family's beliefs, every discovery has started with a meaningful question. I'm grateful my parents gave me the freedom to ask, to learn, and seek answers, because curiosity is something that shouldn't be suppressed. It should be encouraged and practiced, because questions are what move us and the world forward. Thank you.